Hello and welcome to the Blue Collar Wealth Club. I am your host, Sheena White.
And I'm your other host, Jerry Garcia.
Guys, so today we're going to talk about your why and how that fuels your brand promise.
Perfect. I love that. Let's start with the why. Let's explain what that even is.
Okay. So one of my favorite books on this topic is Start With Why by Simon Sinek. And in that book, he talks about that if you start with the product first, you never really can grow. You might be able to grow big for a second, but it's not going to be lasting growth because nobody knows why you're doing the thing. So you really need to start with the why of it instead of the what of it. So his good example of this is the Zune versus the iPod. Okay, so a lot of you are way too young and you're like, Zune? What in the world is she talking about? And that's kind of my point. The Zune,
exactly the point, right?
I'm like, I just made my point in the fact that you have no idea what Zune is, but an iPod, nobody really uses that anymore because of all the other technologies, but you know what it is because I think they actually still exist. iPods.
Don't know.
I don't know, because everyone has an iPhone now, but basically the iPhone is an iPod with a phone in it. But anyways, so the Zune was Microsoft's version of an MP3 player. So we're going all the way back to like 2004 and 2005 time frame. And back then, Microsoft, who had been known as a software-only company, brought out a piece of hardware, the Zune. And it actually was a technologically superior item to the iPod. It came in colors right away. It was actually way better. I worked at a store that sold Zunes, not iPods, because Apple, and the Zune was really cool. I
worked at Circuit City back then. Too, and you're right. That's the
Zune
interesting
was way
thing
better. Yeah.
Technology-wise, the Zune was a better product.
Oh, way better.
But obviously, Apple being the marketing, behemoth that they are.
Well, and it had to do, and Simon Sinek talks in the book about how he believes it had to do with their why, because their entire why was to flick the world and kind of change things and reinvent and be this super cool, it's Apple. And they also had been known for hardware. They had computers and all this stuff. But Microsoft really hadn't. They were the software company. They were the Windows company. So for them to bring out this product, it seemed like it didn't fit. And so people really weren't into it. And you basically couldn't give the things away. I swear to you. It was like, this is a third the price. Are you sure you want one? I'm like, no. And I mean, there was people like, oh yeah, I'm going to buy this for my kid because it's less expensive. I'm like, your kid's going to hate you. And I'm like, it's better, but it didn't matter because
it just didn't matter.
It really didn't. And that's why the Zune went the way of the dodo bird. Nobody even knows what it is anymore. But the iPod became a revolution, right?
And you can still see shades of that today with iPhone versus
Android,
Samsung. And in a lot of ways, the features and technology on Samsung is better than iPhone. But you can never tell an iPhone user that because they have that blue bubble.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. And then I remember, this is kind of an aside, but a funny story. I once applied for a job at Apple in their B2B sales division. And they were like, yeah, you're expected to do, this many millions of dollars in sales. And, it's going to be this. And I'm like, oh, awesome. They're like, yeah, we don't do commission. I'm like, what? And they're like, also, this is your pay. And it was devastatingly low. It was depressing. And I was like, what? That's like... I'm like, no. And they're like, yeah, but you have all these benefits of working for Apple. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. What are the benefits? They're like, you get to work for Apple. I'm like, what? That's not like, no offense, but I can't go to my mortgage company and be like, I know I don't have any money, but I work for Apple. But people, they were shocked that I did not take this job, and they were affronted that I did not want to work for Apple because the true believers, are right there. And that's the thing. You think about Apple, they almost have a cultish following, and it's because of that strong why. So Simon Sinek loves to use Apple as an example when he's talking about this because they do have that cultish following and people just like swarm to buy their products when they're announced, even if they're not as good as the competitor.
Right. And every year they release a new iPhone, and
Mm-hmm.
every year people are right there waiting, and they have to have the newest one, even if there's really not any advancement in the tech. Even if you have, the previous version, a lot of times it's a software update. So you get the same type of features. There's really nothing physically on the phone that changes, unless they're changing your charger or taking away your headphone jack.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, and that's the point, right? They have such a strong brand why. They've built this base of customers that truly buy into everything that they do. And so building that why and building your brand promise into that why is what really drives your business from being just another business that does this thing to being the business that the people who follow you go to whenever they need that service.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you really need to figure out your why. And I ask this to all of my clients. Why did you start this business? Why did you choose this? And sometimes I have to kind of like dig a little deeper because there's like the surface reasons, but you have to go deeper because even for your own self, owning a business and running a business is work. It is hard. It has potential to have way better rewards than you would ever have at a job, but it also is way tougher than you ever will have a job. So you have to, in yourself, really dig in and find that why so you can connect with that on the hard days. Because I mean, even for me, I absolutely love what I do. I love, love, love helping people make more money and understand their finances. It makes me happy. There are days, though, when I want to tell everyone to go away and I want to just go get a job. He can attest.
Absolutely.
He sees me every day. And some days I'm just like, I am so done. But then I just think deeper into why I started doing what I'm doing, what I want to accomplish in the future, and it helps me to get through those hard days and those frustrating occurrences.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. That why is the underlying reason that drives you. And it drives you even when times are tough, even if it just seems like everything is going wrong. If you don't have that strong understanding of why you're doing this, and it's just, well, I just did this because I wanted to make money. And, the money's not usually a strong enough reason
No.
to be that why, unless there's an underlying reason that money needs to go to. So really digging in, it's not easy. I mean, this is something that most of us don't think about on a regular basis. So, when you started your business, you're like, well, I just knew this skill. I'd been doing this job. I figured I would do it for myself. That's, 90% of people start a business for those reasons exactly. So taking a deeper look and saying, okay, well, why do I want my company to be different? How do I want it to be different? What is going to make us become that strong brand for other people who say that, they can get, landscaping done by thousands of different companies, some franchises, some local, some, what is your difference maker? Is it because you're local? Is it because you know the areas? Is it because, find the reasons that make your business different than the others, even though you offer very similar services.
Yeah, and then that kind of brings us to our brand promise. And your brand promise is basically, what does your brand stand for? And the reason we have to start with why is because that will help inform what your brand promise should entail.
Yeah, and that is going to be the differentiator for you. I mean, sometimes I think a lot in business, you don't want to portray a certain message because you're afraid to turn away business, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people are really, I don't want to say this, I don't want to do this because I'm afraid it's going to turn away these type of people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's understandable. I mean, especially early on in a business, you're trying to get as much business as you can just to keep everything going, keep money coming in the door, keep people paid, keep yourself, making money. But what happens is the more you dig into your why and your brand promise, the stronger you find kind of your tribe. You find the people that really resonate with you. And your business won't be for everybody, but for the people it is for, they will have that cult-like following to your brand, and they won't use anybody else. They will talk good about your business when you're not there. They will always recommend your business over others, regardless of price.
Yeah.
And that's
Well,
huge.
yeah, and getting being able to sell outside of price is huge, because I think especially when you first start, and really in the trades when you first start, price is a natural thing to sell using. So I'll just be the cheapest.
It's the easiest denominator, right?
But the thing is, and when you're small, when it's just you, or maybe you and maybe one other person, stuff like that, price is easy. It's easy to be the cheapest when you have no overhead. But as you add on layers of complexity of your business, you add on layers of overhead of your business, and then price becomes more and more difficult to be the thing you sell on. And so that's why it's so important to really think about these things early and often, because if you can pull into your why, create a brand promise that makes you stand out, then you don't have to sell on price. So then you can actually scale quicker and easier because you have more capital. People always, I see in all these Facebook groups and all over, people are like, I want to scale, I don't have any money. I'm like, yeah, or I don't understand why it's, I'm scaling and I'm broke. Growing a business is extremely expensive. I have one of my clients, we're making a huge push into another sector of their business next year. And literally the minimum investment we figured out is $500,000. And he has to be ready to write that check knowing that, yeah, he is going to make 10x. I mean, the numbers don't lie. He will, but he still has to write that check first. There's no money coming in for probably, potentially years because of the way it's set up. And he has to just be like, here you go. Here's $500,000 every single year until they got their return. Return is going to happen. Who knows when? So scaling is expensive and you have to be ready for that. But the more you can really hone into that brand promise, the more that you will have the margin to be able to scale easier. He has the money to write that $500,000 check. So
the benefit of doing things right on the front
right?
end, right?
Yeah, we're planning. We're like, okay, we're gonna do this and that, and it'll be ready.
But that's it. And this is why we push so hard on the brand promise and the why, because writing that check with no guarantee of future returns, even though we can see the projections, they're there, even though you can look at it and know that they're going to be there, you still have to write that check in good faith. And it makes it a lot easier when you truly understand why you're writing it and what your business is about, knowing that if you stand on that brand promise and you stick to your whys, that things will happen the way that you project them to.
Yeah, and your brand promise should be something you want to tell the world. Right. It is your key differentiating factors. And it doesn't have to be outlandish or fancy schmancy. So in Scaling Up by Vern Harnish, he talks about, and I don't know if this is in the book or just in his talks. I've read the book so many times and heard him talk so many times, I can't differentiate. But either way, he talks about a ferry company in the Philippines and how in the Philippines, the ferries weren't very reliable, and they weren't very safe, and they were kind of never on time. And so this company said they came out and they said we're going to be very safe, very reliable, and very fast, or something like that. And so that doesn't seem that outlandish, right? They said they were going to be safe and reliable.
I think that would be the baseline.
Right? To me, if I'm getting on a boat, I hope it's safe, right? But they came out and they said, look, this is what we stand for. We stand for these 3 things, and they even painted it on every single one of their boats. They are the fastest growing ferry company in the Philippines, even though they are more expensive.
Well, this goes back. Apple's the perfect example for
right?
That,
right? Oh, yeah.
Apple versus Zune is that, and this is why he chose it.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, it was way more expensive for the same technology,
and
but
way
worse.
crappier, honestly. The Zune was really cool.
People were so willing to just say, hey, no, I don't want that cheap one. I want the expensive one, even though the cheap one is better. In a lot of ways, that's where price doesn't matter. People will say they're hung up on price, but if they see the value in something, they'll spend more money to get the better thing, right? You could see this in handbags also with handbags, you can get any purse. You can go to TJ Maxx and find a purse for, $25, $50.
Yeah, you can go Walmart.
Yeah, and you can find a bag that's going to
You can go to Goodwill and find, a used handbag if that's all you care about.
Right.
But I mean, then there's also like Hermès, and that is like you have to spend for the Birkin, you have to spend 10 grand with them on other things before you can even get on the list to potentially buy one in the future.
And so this is why price as your number one sales point isn't the most important thing. It's what your brand stands for. It's what your brand's about. And it's getting your brand in front of the right people who will always pay whatever you think that price should be over whatever the other person says is the value of that.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to really stand in what you want as your brand promise. Because I think so many times when people are building a business, they, you kind of pointed to this earlier, they want to please everybody. So they're trying to be so vanilla. And I've said this before, but I'll say it again. You want to attract to yourself the people that you want and be a super attractor. That magnet you become has to have another side. So you have to be polarizing. You have to pull to who you want, but in that you're going to push away who you don't, and don't be afraid of that. Be excited about that. Nobody truly wants 100 of those poopy customers. You know who I'm talking about. People will always say, "Oh, I help everybody." No, you don't.
Mm-hmm.
Be real about that. Think in your mind of the customer that you hated the most. Do you want 100 of those? I know I don't. I certainly do not. But think in your mind also of the customer you love, like your favorite customer. If you had 1,000 of them, you would be the happiest clam out there. Then create the marketing, the messaging, and everything for that person. Lean into that. What is the brand promise that you gave them that it made you happy, it made them happy, you guys had a great exchange, and really kind of dig in.
Yeah, I think that's the perfect exercise. Next time you have one of those clients, you're like, God, I wish all my clients were like this.
Yeah.
Think about that. Talk to them. Ask them why they decided your company over others. And then lean into that messaging, lean into that promise, and understand that, like, look, if you want 100 of these clients, then your messaging has to speak directly to that person. And I think that was one of the hardest things for me to learn in general, in my mortgage business is, yes, I was going to turn away business. I stopped doing the down payment assistance loans because it just was not the type of loans that I want to do. It was not the type of customer I was wanting to attract. I like working with people on their investment properties, on building wealth, and so
small business owners.
Yeah, I really started shifting my messaging, and I did less loans, but I did more of the ones I wanted to, and it was really great for my peace of mind. And it was really great to enjoy what I did again at that point. When you get burnt out on a lot of the the issues that you have with the others, and some people really like that and they lean into that messaging. And that's the thing, there's always going to be enough clients for your business to run your business. Nobody wants 100% of the market, because 100% of the market is not for you. So really focusing in, like you said, attracting those ones that you really like will simultaneously push away the ones that you don't, and those are both really good things.
Yeah, because you want, at the end of the day, owning a business is hard. So you want to attract the people you actually enjoy working with. Makes it so much better.
And that's a great way to figure out, what your brand promise is and what your why is. If you can think about the clients that you loved and why you loved them, it will help you figure out in your mind, well, I liked helping them because of this. Well, I really liked doing that because of this. Like, in your mind, you're going to say, well, yeah, it was really fun working with them because I got to help them do this. And that, once you start thinking of those people that you really enjoyed helping, that is going to help you build that message if you can't do it on your own.
Yeah. And it'll be so much better. And so, if you're kind of struggling, I don't even know where to start on my brand promise, I think this is and your why, I think that's a really great place to start, is who did you love and who did you hate? And that will give you both sides of your coin. Because I know that when I say who was the worst client you ever had, a face pops into your brain. And I say who was the best client you ever had, another face pops in your brain. So think about those two humans and what were the attributes and what were the differences. And that will kind of lead you to where you can create this to get more of those people that you loved and less of those people that made you just want to go back to bed.
We call that the crush clients versus the cringe clients.
Yes.
Who are the ones that you crushed on from a business perspective? Who are the ones that made you cringe and you just would rather never see them again?
Right? Yeah.
and that's how we refer to them in clockwork. And so,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and so yeah, take a minute, do that exercise. And I promise you, it will help you today. It will help you tomorrow, and it will help you as long as you run your business.
absolutely, it seems like something that maybe maybe doesn't seem very tangible on the front end, but it's one of those things where you kind of have to trust the process a little bit and understand that doing some of these things that seem strange and maybe seem just a little bit like irrelevant, like in the long run, they actually really do build a very strong foundation for your business and will have an impact, whether you can see that right now or not.
Yeah. It's all about doing the things that other people aren't doing in order to make you stand out in the end.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah. So thanks for joining us today on the Blue Collar Wealth Club, and we'll see you again next time.